So, sir, what are we going to talk about today? What's going on in the world?
Okay, I have uh, I have some economic reveal to give if we want to jump right into that.
Let's discuss.
Yes. So this was new news to me about a week ago. And while I find it 0% surprising, I am still 100% angry.
Okay.
So this is something that is coming to light because agribusiness is starting to do it. So, uh, people that supply meat, vegetables, eggs, dairy, the massive suppliers that keep buying up all the little mom and pops, and then, we have three
Yeah.
people that make all of the milk in America kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this came to my attention because they've started doing a thing that apparently rental property owners have been doing for years.
Okay.
So here's the thing. There's an independent business. So this business in either case doesn't own any rental properties, or B, doesn't actually produce any food products.
Okay.
But what they do is gather all the information for what people are being charged for rent. I'm going to use the rent because it's a slightly easier to talk about, just because it's one thing instead of a bunch of things.
So
Uh,
let me see if I understand where, where this where this story is going, and then you
all right,
can
you're
explain it
gonna
more fully.
predict.
I'm going to predict. My prediction is that it would be illegal for separate companies to agree on a price and therefore artificially raise it, generally known as collusion. What's not illegal is if you all subscribe to the same asshole who does some wabbaja, which doesn't really matter what they're doing. Like, it doesn't really matter, but they do some sort of data collection and they provide you with the information so that you guys can effectively collude without colluding. How close am
You are so on the head that it's actually a little scary. The only thing you left out is that this third party company provides a pricing recommendation, and
I? Awesome.
then if you don't follow their pricing recommendation as a subscriber, they apply peer pressure to you.
Ooh, in what form?
Like you get emails about how you're undervaluing your properties and it's costing you profit, and you get text messages about how people in your
They basically
market
call
who
you dumb.
follow the yeah, they call you dumb. They call you a dumb person who doesn't want to make money.
Uh, See, this is the problem with like making it like strictly following laws because it just lets people use stupid loopholes. Like this isn't even that creative, right? Like
Yeah.
I I respect a good, really creative loophole. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they put a comma in the wrong place. We can do something else. Like at least that's interesting, intellectual in a way. I mean, I don't know it's actually better, but this is just like I don't understand. I know, okay, strike that. I completely understand, but I'm frustrated by the fact that it is this easy for rich people to cheat. Like it's just like because they're still colluding. Like the removal of that step where it's like, well, it's this other person setting organization, so it's like you're still fucking doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Like
never
it,
called each other and talked about it.
like who gives a shit? Why is that a requirement? Like, how about we do some spirit of the law here, motherfuckers? Like, stop cheating. Stop being. I hate this shit. You're right about the unsurprising part, considering I was able to guess
Yeah,
what
yeah, considering with minimal information, just the existence of a database, and you were like, "Oh, I know what rich assholes are going to do."
uh,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I've been a homeowner for, some 15, 18 years at this point.
yeah,
So I guess I just never, I mean, the rental market never hasn't impacted me in long enough,
yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah. That
longer
makes
than
sense.
this database existed.
Yeah,
Um, so it never came to my attention, but it did with the food prices doing what they're doing, and I was like,
yeah,
I cannot, like, what is our government's job? Like, I feel like I want to sit around with people that matter. And I don't just mean politicians, but I do mean politicians. Like, I want politicians in the room, I want business leaders in the room, I want philosophers and historians in the room, and I want to get on the same page, or at least air out what everyone thinks our government's job actually is. Like, what is the purpose? Why do we have a government?
yeah. I think that would be an interesting conversation because I think that like if me and you sat in a room and really tried to come up with like what that should be, we could then walk into a room with like people who really are trying to do the right thing as leaders of our nation, like the good ones I'm talking about. Like no matter how you want to define that, but like whoever, if you're listening to this, like whatever your example of good ones is, what I guarantee is me and Kyle sit in the room with them, and the answers are entirely and completely fucking different, and that's not good. It's not good. It's a bad sign for us, like being able to move forward and not all kill each other. Um, I'm struck by, well, one, how sort of dystopian all this is. But like, this reminds me of, we talked in the past about how there was a change in the law as far as corporations went, where like there was a point at which they actually had to justify their existence from a societal standpoint in their mission statement, right? Like they had to say, like, we're making this company because we're going to make food and people need to eat food.
Mhm.
We're going to do it
Yeah,
well. We're going
in
to do it
order
clean.
to
We're going to do it right.
justify the protections that the individuals receive by shifting legal liability onto a corporation.
Exactly. So if you don't know what that is and you're listening to this, basically, you if you are founding a corporation, if you're starting a company, if it's just a sole proprietorship, then when people sue the company, they sue you. If you are in a limited liability company or in a corporation, they sue the corporation and they cannot join you or sue
They
you
can't they
in
can't
most
take your
circumstances.
personal house, your personal
Yeah,
vehicle, your savings
exactly.
account, those sorts of things. It protects individuals from being sued for something that even their business or a business that they pilot, whatever the situation is, it protects their personal assets from being enjoined by legal action against the company.
The
Um,
company.
and and there are good reasons to allow that to be a thing.
But if you're listening to this and hearing something and hearing that fact for the first time, you might be thinking, "Oh, that's how evil corporation CEOs just end up staying rich and being cool." Yep, they just take out their shit and they leave, and no one can sue them, and that's awesome for them. Um, I think some modifications in the law are probably in order, but but I digress. It is really monstrous that they get away with this, and the point I was trying to get to was like this corporation or this company that all they do is like the database and the peer pressure. I don't think it would have gotten through, and I don't think it should. I don't think it should be allowed to be a company because its sole purpose is to fuck with the market.
And
Like,
well,
and
its sole purpose is to bypass anti-collusion laws.
yeah.
That's it. It literally is just a workaround to avoid a law being able to achieve its purpose.
So to return to where you started to go, which is like, what's the point of the government? I think not letting that company exist should fit squarely into what the government is. Because that company is designed entirely and completely to undermine the fucking government and its rules. So it's like, why are we letting this be a thing? I don't quite understand.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
because of all the rich fucking people who
yeah,
are
yeah,
paying all the
because
people making the
over
rules.
over half of our representatives don't actually any longer agree with the rule that rich people shouldn't be able to exploit the poor.
Yeah. Yes, they are representatives in name alone. They don't actually represent the vast majority of their constituents. Um, they probably represent a small group, probably most of which aren't even their constituents. But at that point, like maybe a couple of them. It depends on where they're
Yeah,
from,
they're their donors, but not their constituents.
which importantly different, not in the way it should not be in the way it currently is. Because constituents should matter more. That is not the way it works currently.
I wonder, that might be a. I mean, it's not our ideal solution as far as removing donor money from politics altogether. But I wonder if that's a little in between step we could take. You can only be given money from your place.
This is a weird place where actually democracy is sort of being helped by the internet, which generally hasn't been the way it's gone. But the ease of the small donation, so like the
Hmm.
access almost everyone has to giving their favorite person $5. Like Kamala has raised so much at this point from small donors that like she can kind of look at the big donors and go like, "Hey, suck it!
Yeah,
Like, I got enough money, so you can go
yeah.
fuck yourself."
I'm not saying I won't take your money, but you can't buy me because
Yeah,
I don't need your money.
exactly. Which is at least that's a place I want politics to get, if nothing else. I mean, the problem is that should be like a huge advantage, but it's just like an even playing field kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
you have all these small donors who are willing to give you money, like you should be winning clearly, but that's not how this is going. And Trump makes or has certainly made a fair amount of money from small donors because he has a rabid cult following, people who have
yeah,
been
but
either are evil or blatantly.
even then, he does it in shady ways where he's not actually using the money to run for president. He's using it to pay for lawyers and
That's
settlements and
part of why. That's a big part of why I think this might actually end up being a whooping because I've so often been told by like the experts that the ultimate result usually reflects the money put into the actual area. And I don't think he's putting that much money into the actual like getting people to vote for him.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure he has PACs and stuff that take actual donations, but for the most part, like when you see him asking for money, it's buy my shoe
Mm-hmm. My
or
NFT.
my NFT trading cards, and like it's not actually if you read the fine print, that money isn't earmarked for the campaign at all.
No.
It's just like he's just paying lawyers and putting it away so that he can eventually pay Stormy Daniels.
I would love for him to just no longer be a thing in my life. Like that'd be great. And I'm not suggesting he get murdered. I just want him to disappear into history. I'd kind of like to have him stay alive while it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. We don't want him gone from his life. We want him gone from our lives.
Exactly. And I might check in occasionally to see your sad ass just to get a little bit of a bump in happiness. But like, I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you like him. No, sorry, that was a lie.
No,
I'm not
yeah,
sorry if you're listening to this and you like him. Stop it.
you're
Just stop it.
clearly you're clearly here for hate porn. Like that's the only thing that makes sense. So, you know, yes, we hate you.
I might not hate, but to be honest, low percentage. Um,
Mm. Did you see Jack Smith's superseding indictment?
I did, I did. You know, I mean, listen, I feel like what that substantially shows is that Jack Smith is a good lawyer because he
Yeah,
went, I don't like this, but this is the new rules, so I'm going to rejigger this so that it fits with the new rules here. And
yeah.
it was
I
smart of him to do the whole superseding thing instead of just trying to like update the old one because then they would have been basically, well, they were poisoned. They saw evidence they shouldn't have.
Yeah, he
It's
went to
like,
an entirely different grand jury that they already had impaneled to hear other January 6th stuff, and presented only the only the actions taken outside of official duties, and they still returned the indictment. So, like, okay, that's fine. All of your privilege stuff is just gone. We don't need it.
Yeah, Merrick Garland's legacy is going to be complicated, and I I think, is what we'll need to do. He is the story we will tell to have people understand that sometimes a desperate desire to be unbiased leads to bias.
Yeah.
Like, you have so overcorrected in trying not to appear political that you have been dangerously political during your fucking stance, and as a result, we're not going to get to see the trials about the president trying to coup before he tries to be president again, which is just like, if I'm writing that story, like if we put that in a book, I feel like our editors would be like, I don't know, man, 4 years they didn't get to this. Seems important. Like Congress basically had to have a whole fucking investigation and hearing where they just sat there going, look, and then finally it was like, oh yeah, I guess we should work.
I mean, going back, I wish DC, like, not federal charges at all. I wish DC had charged him like incitement to riot.
I think the issue there was based on the statute and the wide latitude given to political actors, like it wasn't gonna work. Like he wasn't guilty of the statute as it's written in Washington D.C. I could be making that up, but
I still wish they had
I
done
bet,
it. Like, I don't care.
yeah,
All right, like, I don't care if they win that trial.
yeah, because we still get to see all the evidence. It's still a public record. The public wins either way.
Yeah.
Even if it's basically based on kind of bad law, he doesn't. It's not that crime. Like, and that was the weird. This is part of the problem, right? Because we're dealing with humans having written the law, and it's clear that through I think a little bit of arrogance, the people writing our laws from the beginning really hadn't contemplated the president cooing. In and so like didn't just write a law that said, hey, the president can't coup, right? Like not cool. And if they had just been something that direct, we'd be a lot this would be an easier place to live, right? And maybe we should write some laws like, it's just like, hey, we didn't think we had to say this,
I
but
mean,
you're not allowed to insurrection.
it it's literally in the Constitution about treason. I think what they did is they couldn't imagine a our nation getting to a point where an elected leader trying to deny the election and overthrow the
Yeah,
duly
I think
elected
that's right.
government wouldn't be
Yeah,
considered treason.
100%.
Like we have that. We don't need to write a specific law about it because it's treason.
See, that's where they fucked. That right there is where they went a little. They they were too. I think it comes down to like there's just been like a real run of elitism going through our government that just permitted some holes. You know what I mean? Like there's just like, oh, they'll get that. It'll be fine. It's like, well, you sure? Like, I'd like to introduce you to Robert's Supreme Court. Um, Imagine, I would love to do that. I would love to like introduce George Washington to the Roberts Supreme Court, just because I think he would just walk up and smack Roberts in the face. Like after giving the full context, I think you'd just be like, I need to talk to you.
I don't know, man. They were hardcore back then. He might just pull out a pistol and shoot him.
Well, I'm not. I did contemplate the idea that smack was the beginning of a challenge for a duel,
Mm.
but I wasn't sure about going all the way there.
Like, I'm not sure. I mean, dude did some shit.
It was on the table. I mean, Aaron Burr. I mean, it was illegal when Aaron Burr got shot in the duel, but it was still, it was kind of illegal. It
It
was
wasn't
allowed in
illegal.
some places.
It wasn't illegal in New Jersey.
Yes, That I mean, that was much later. So I mean, it's certainly on the table. It's certainly on the table, particularly given how furious I think he would be. And even if he's kind of calculating, I just think George Washington could probably take Justice Roberts. Like, that should be the title of the episode. Do you think George Washington can take Justice Roberts? What the fuck were they talking about?
I think it'd be fairly embarrassing. I think it'd be a,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
he could play with him if he wanted to. Just, just got to be worried about that. The Firefly duel where that Mao eventually wins because the guy just keeps stabbing him instead of killing him. He's just being too cute about it.
such a good show.
It was a very good show.
All baggage with Joss Whedon aside for a moment, he made some good shows in the 90s.
Hmm. I mean, by all reports, he was an abusive boss. But as far as a writer, he wrote more interesting and complex characters than were being put on screen at that time, and it wasn't close compared to most of the other stuff. Like there were particularly like teenage age characters on Buffy and like they're just he was able to he managed to by all reports at the time write females better than most males, if not all at that time frame where they actually had agency and like power and stuff, which was once again change of pace. That's why these things were beloved at the time and to some extent still are. And I think that's one of the unfortunate parts of like art is that sometimes the author of those arts turn out to suck, you know. But like I think we can separate the impact and the quality of the product.
I mean,
Um,
you almost need to from a cultural standpoint. I don't know, like it's not that you forgive the person or I not maybe you probably should forgive the person unless what they did is unforgivable, and I don't think any of the allegations against him reach that level. But you don't have to you don't have to forget that he was a bad person.
yeah,
But there's no reason. I mean, if you are going to deny the value of a work because of the personal problems of the maker, like all of the great classicists, you just have to toss aside. Like,
yeah. I mean, you're losing a lot. Like Hitchcock was like an abusive lunatic. Like through every realm. Like, and listen, to some extent, we culturally encourage this sort of mindset in the artiste. You know what I mean? There is this sort of like there has been in particular and directors and these were a great example of this in like the 80s and 90s was like they were almost encouraged by the culture to be like the geniuses were supposed to be crazy and like put people through hell to create their art. You know, like Kubrick, he's famous for that shit. It's like, you know, or you're a narcissist and and you have this process and you're imposing it on everyone, and maybe that makes you more of a dick than a genius. But it doesn't make you not a genius. It's just that is not why you're a genius. You know what I mean? Like, and that's sort of the connection that used to be made. Is like, but I love that now. Like, we get to talk to and hear from so many other artists, and some of them like are just like, no, I just pretend. Like, you know, you get the actors that are like, I am method, and and some of them give great performances. But you also have actors that are like, I, I don't know why they have to go through all that. That seems like
yeah,
really tiring, and I just pretend to be a different person when the camera starts. And they also give great performances sometimes. So like, shit, I know what my choice would be.
yeah,
And that's not just because it sounds easier. It's because like I don't want to torture the people around me. You know, like if you're methoding an asshole, then that means you have to be an asshole all the time. It is interesting though. I think maybe I'm more sensitive now because I am deemed an artist. And it's like, but I don't want to be a dick. I'm not into that whole thing. I may get a little precious, but I'm not. I don't feel like being an asshole.